Diane Feinstein has died.
Good morning, everybody. Wake up. Wake up, wake up. In Provincetown. This week featuring Wake Up, Wake Up. Can I have some coffee? Wake up, wake up. Make it strong, please. Hey. Oh. Hey. Wake up, wake up. Oh. No, really, can I have some coffee? Wake up, wake up.
Go. Hi. Good morning, everybody. It's Friday, September 29th, right?
It is.
It is, right? Or the 30th. No, it's
Yeah.
the 29th.
I always feel like September flies by simply because September doesn't feel like it started until after Labor Day,
Right.
which makes the month seem very short.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
But it's October soon.
yeah, it is October soon.
Is there 31 days of September?
No, there are not.
Okay. It's Libra season.
Is it? Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
That's my birthday.
I know.
But I would say Provincetown really attracts Libras, and every time I say that when I'm in a room where I'm like, so many people in this town are Libras, people are like, that can't be right, and then like 40% of the people in the room are Libras.
You're not a Libra.
Yes, I am.
When's your birthday?
October 21st.
Oh, I thought it was later than that.
No.
For some reason, I put you closer to Halloween in my head.
No. I like that, though.
You're the last day of Libra?
I think the 22nd or 23rd is the last day of Libra.
You're barely a Libra.
I am a Libra Scorpio, which is also like,
See?
I'm on the cusp of Scorpio. Means I'm a bitch.
Wait, a Libra, yeah, that's why?
Yeah.
Okay, at least now we know why.
Yeah.
We have a great show for you today,
We
guys.
really do.
Harrison, who's on the show this morning?
Cinnator is going to stop by and talk about the Provincetown Book Festival, which is happening this
I
weekend.
am the Cinnator.
We also have Adam Golub coming in to talk about the Generations Project event that's happening tomorrow night.
Adam Glue?
Golub.
Golub.
Oh. I've only ever read it. I've never heard it said out loud.
Are you sure it's Cinnator?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who did you chat with on Sunday?
You guys, the fall is a great time to come to Provincetown and do a little gallery stroll. So many of our favorite galleries are open and selling art this time of year. Not just art, but like cute little things too. For somebody who doesn't want to buy, say a big painting. So we're doing a little thing for the next few weeks where we're stopping into some of our favorite galleries and getting to know these gallerists a little better. This first installment is Woody Shimko and Shann Treadwell, who I spoke with last week, both of whom would love for you to come say hi sometime soon.
Yeah. That's what we've got today. How was your week?
My week was so good. I got you got our very first star review at work.
We both
or
did.
1-star review.
Oh yeah, I have
It's your fault.
No, it's.
It's totally your fault that guy said that.
Because I'm the pretty one.
No, because you're the one that provoked him.
I didn't provoke him.
Yes, you did.
I just told him he was wrong.
Right.
We got a review this week on where the headline of said 1-star review was pretty but dumb.
Yeah.
I'll take it. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah. This person came. He created a TripAdvisor account and a Yelp account just to write those ones. This was his first review that he ever wrote, and it was about us, and it was 1 star. And on the other website it said, cute little place, cute little bartenders, cute little waiters, but dumb as a bag of hammers.
Cute little bartender.
I think hammers are pretty smart.
Honestly,
personally.
yeah. But basically it boils down to the term martini and how it has changed over
The decades.
the last century. And the martini cocktail was created in like the late 1800s. I want to say like the late 1880s. And at the time it was pretty much just vermouth in a glass. And then over time, then they added gin, and then like the classic martini became half gin, half dry vermouth. And then as time changed, like the terms like martini change and evolve over time based on the preferences of the people drinking it, the preferences of the people ordering it. Like think about you go and order a martini anywhere. The bartender is typically going to shake it depending on the type of establishment you're at. And that wasn't always the case. That's why James Bond ordered his martini shaken, not stirred, is because stirred was the standard, and that literally changed the idea of what a martini was and how it was prepared. That line alone in that movie made it so for the next 80 years it was standard to shake a martini.
Yeah, it's because of James Bond
Yeah.
that the standard is now shake it.
Yeah.
But also, most people, especially people who are on vacation in Provincetown and on Cape Cod in general, I don't think they expect very much, if any, vermouth in their martini these days. If you order a martini in town, most places in town will not put any unless you want it. That's just how it is. I'm not saying that's the classic way. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that's how it is here. You were telling this person that that's how it is everywhere.
It is. Most places, I imagine like the places that if you were to order a martini and get vermouth, like by their standard, I imagine that bartender's like wearing a butcher's apron, cracking ice by hand, like that.
With a dumb hammer.
Yeah, with a really dumb hammer. And I just think now, because so many people, when they order a martini, want a glass of vodka or a glass of gin, especially here, but everywhere. Like when I've worked at places that were like, no, when people order martini, we're putting vermouth in it, I would say at least 50% of those martinis get sent back and they go, oh, I didn't want vermouth. And the way you instruct your bartender on whether you want vermouth or not is ordering like a standard martini, a dry martini, which means slightly less vermouth, or an extra dry martini, which means even less vermouth than that. Yeah.
The point being, this person was like at a table. He wasn't even one of our direct customers. And he walked up to the bar in the middle of Saturday night while we were really busy and was like, I thought we were having like a jokey.
Me too.
Because he was like, you mean to tell me you guys don't put vermouth in your martinis? And I was like, only if people ask, that's kind of the standard here. He was like, what, here in this restaurant? I was like, well, here in town and kind of the Cape. And he's like, and everywhere that I've ever worked. And the guy was like, well, I was a bartender in New York in the 70s.
He said
Since the 70s.
He's right. He said, I've been a bartender since the 70s. And Bob was like, where do you work? And he's like, oh, well, I don't bartend anymore. I'm like, you bartended from 1975 to 1977.
Right. Yeah, he said, I've been tending bars since the 70s in New York. And I said, oh, where do you work now? And he goes, I don't do it anymore. And I said, oh, so you haven't tended bar since the 70s, you tended bar in the 70s. And then he's like, you guys are losing this argument. And I said, we're not arguing with you. It's not an argument. Just go back to your table. We don't have time for that.
But it was me.
We don't. We're like, look at, like, do you want vermouth? If what you wanted was vermouth, we would have given you vermouth, but you didn't want vermouth. You wanted a fight. And I wasn't willing to give you that. I said, this conversation is over. You're not getting the fight that you wanted.
Yeah.
If you don't want vermouth, then I don't know what you want.
And also most people who are like, oh, I want it dry, extra dry, don't know what that means. They don't even know what they're asking for.
Right. You know what I do if I'm waiting on the person and they order a gin martini? I almost always say, how much vermouth would you like in your martini? And 99% of them say none. Some say, oh, in and out, a drop, the tiniest amount possible, which is the standard because it's what most people want now.
We also don't have to pretend. Like, don't be like, oh, I want the tiniest bit of vermouth. I'm like, I don't have to put it in there.
Right.
It's not mandatory.
Yeah, have what you want. We want people to have what they want.
And
Unless it's a fight.
Most people want a big glass of vodka.
Yeah. So, I mean, he didn't name us probably because he didn't know our names, but if you see, I mean, I don't read restaurant reviews of the restaurant where I work. I read other people's restaurant reviews. It's funny to see your friends in town get named in these.
Well, it was funny. I didn't even know that this man had wrote a review, and someone was like, "Oh, you should look at our reviews because someone said this about this person." And then I opened it up, and I was like, "Oh,
you're like, oh, that's me. I
that
did
is
that."
me." I was like, "That happened last night."
But then it's so easy to go down the rabbit hole and just keep reading them.
Oh yeah, most of the bad reviews were either like they were mad at their server for a reason, justified or not, or everyone else was like, I didn't feel appreciated. And I'm just like, that's a weird expectation of a restaurant. To feel appreciated?
Yeah.
I understand, I guess I could deduce the sentiment behind it is like they want to feel catered to and
Waited
welcomed,
on, yeah.
but
like you should be glad that,
appreciated?
yeah. You should appreciate that I walked through the door and chose to spend my money here. I understand
yeah,
that.
totally.
Yes, appreciate the guests.
I do.
Yeah.
But,
do you?
But, like, I appreciate them by being nice to them, giving them what they want. I'm not like holding them by the face. You is kind.
You is smart.
Right, exactly.
You is appreciated.
Did you get up to anything else besides getting dragged on TripAdvisor?
I don't know. Oh, you know what I did yesterday? I went to the Beachcomber for lunch.
Oh, no
It's
way.
closing tomorrow. Their season is over. I wanted to go say hi to my friends that work there one last time. That's the real beginning of the fall, when the Beachcomber closes. Yeah. I mean, before the pandemic, they closed on Labor Day. And ever since the pandemic, they go till the end of September.
That's great.
I know. I love that they kept doing it. It's sort of a gift, so that their regulars feel appreciated. So thank you, Beachcomber, for being open.
Busy? Like, did it have a good vibe?
It had a good vibe. It wasn't super busy, but you had time to talk to the bartender.
Right.
They had time to hang out. And the tap had one beer. Like all of the things were gone, and everything had a little.
Once things are gone, they're gone.
Yeah. So thank you, Beachcomber, for your service to the community and for how deeply you appreciate us when we come in.
Last Friday after the show, I worked at the brewery, and the brewery actually hosted one of the Tennessee Williams events last weekend.
Yeah.
There was one play that didn't have a home, I think because a shakeup or something. So Chris Spalding reached out to them and was like, "You could use our brewery if you want." And it was a really fun show. I was working behind the bar, and most people were just seated watching the show, so I got to just watch the show as well. It was wild.
What was it?
It was an alien vampire a gay alien vampire coming home to visit his hometown. I think it was kind of like a
This is a Tennessee Williams play?
Yeah.
Gay alien vampire?
Yeah. Do you know
A Nightly Quest.
A Nightly Quest? I couldn't remember the name.
Oh.
But it was a one-man show, him sitting on stage talking for an hour and a half, and I was just like, it was really fun, really entertaining. I didn't get to get all of it simply because I was working, so I would have to stop. And it was one of those plays where if you stop paying attention for 30 seconds, you're like, what is going on? But it was really fun. I think it was kind of like an allegory for being the gay child and moving away to the city and then coming back and feeling like a gay vampire alien.
Oh, crazy. Who was the actor?
I didn't catch his name, but
Marcel Myers.
Marcel Myers. He was incredible. It was awesome.
You have to be really good in order to hold people's attention. One person speaking for 90 minutes, that's great.
Yeah, and then they probably had 70 people watching.
Oh, wow.
It was really awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. And then that night I checked out the musical.
The Farmyard Follies.
Farmyard Follies. It was incredible.
Yeah.
I have to tip my hat to Blake Allen and also Tina Burner and everyone involved. They were definitely, Anne Hutchinson really stood out to me. She was hilarious. Angelo was incredible as the pig. It was really fun, really amazing. It really highlighted the incredible talent in town. I was also super impressed with Yoli, because I'm always impressed with Yoli. She's always incredible, but the thing that stood out to me is Yoli is always so Yoli. You know what I mean? And she really lost herself into the character and was incredible. It was such an amazing show.
Oh, I'm sad I missed it.
Yeah, it was fun.
They're going to bring it back though, right?
Maybe.
I mean, the goal is to bring it to Broadway eventually, right?
Yeah. I think it was super well received, the audience. I think they had almost trouble it being a Provincetown audience because we would cheer anytime someone walked onto the stage and they're like, we're doing a fucking musical over here, shut up. Just 'cause, you know what I mean? The timing of it all, because so much of it was in time that it was just a lot. To do one show, when I was doing the Fantastic, it took a day or two to figure out when the audience is gonna laugh, when you have to wait, when you have to take that breath to let people laugh or applaud. And so to do a one night only show, it's like you don't get a chance to learn those things. Right. So you're experiencing it in time. But it was awesome.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Someday, somewhere. What's new in the world, Harry?
So Washashore is this next weekend, Indigenous Peoples Day
Already?
weekend. I know. Isn't that wild?
Oh my God.
Is that weekend usually earlier? I was imagining
It's always
later.
around then.
Nice. But it's going to be tons of fun. We have a little promo video for you. Check it out.
I'm in the middle of love, in the middle of love, in the middle of loving you. It's so far from done. You tried to run, I tried to tie your shoes. In the middle of love, in the middle of love, it's breaking us up in two. There's not much I can do.
It's going to be so much fun. Get your tickets now. It's going to be a fun-filled weekend. I am most excited for all of it, but I'm really excited for Andrew Haig and Joel Santos' set together. That's going to be incredible.
Which night is that?
Saturday night.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
I can only go on Sunday this
Yeah.
year. Like every year.
Let's talk about news. So Megan Rapinoe will play her final match against South Africa in Chicago this coming Sunday. The 38-year-old athlete leaves behind a legacy of two World Cup titles and an Olympic gold medal. Not that I mostly know her, but I also know her as a incredible voice for philanthropy, LGBTQ plus rights, women's rights, and for standing up to Donald Trump. I just loved watching them fight. In 2019, she won the Ballon d'Or Féminine. I'm guessing it's a French soccer prize, and also the FIFA's The Best Award, making it clear that she was the best soccer player in the world in 2019. She's a philanthropist, campaigner, and advocate for equal rights, and also pay equity, which I feel like is incredibly important, especially when thinking about the difference between what women and men are paid for playing sports.
And she'll have more time to focus on what she's passionate about when she's done playing soccer.
Yeah, come to P-Town, relax,
Yeah, come visit
retire
us.
in P-Town.
Come do a one-woman cabaret show.
Yes.
Right?
Like what, juggling? It's still called juggling for soccer, right?
Is it?
I think so. When you juggle with your feet, just juggle for an hour while like telling stand-up jokes.
If it's your feet, is it juggling?
I think so.
We'll figure that out.
Soccer players in the comments, please let me know.
Dianne Feinstein just died.
She did die this morning. Thank you for a lifetime of service to the American public.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are you laughing at?
I feel bad because all of my news stories are about politics, and it feels so early for that to be the case.
Well, just get it over with quickly.
Okay, let's talk about strikes first. Let's do like a non-super political strike. So the writer's strike is now over. After 148 days, the WGA writer's strike is over. The boards voted unanimously this past Tuesday to lift the strike order. This past Sunday, the WGA and also the AMPTP had a 10-hour negotiation session. And
The PPRTA?
Exactly. When it came out, people were apprehensive of what the results were going to be. But when everything came out saying what the agreement ended up being, people were really happy with it. Most of the new rules that were negotiated are residuals, and also how AI is going to be implemented into the creative process. And reading what the rules around AI, I think it's really great. So basically, AI cannot write or rewrite literary material or be used as source material. A writer can choose to use AI if the company that they're writing for consents, but the company cannot require a writer to use AI software. Using writers' work to train AI is prohibited, which is great.
Yeah.
They also got a 76% increase in streaming residuals, which I know.
Good.
Yeah. I couldn't deduce whether this was part of it, but I also hope that part of it is not allowing studios to remove content from streaming sites. Because when streaming and the internet were first introduced, it was basically this idea of like, wow, we're never gonna lose media again. Because media used to be a physical thing, so it would get broken, it would get lost to basements in history. But everyone's like, oh, now that things are online and streaming, everything is going to be available forever. And because of business practices, it's coming to light that is actually not the case. Things are being removed from streaming sites simply because they don't want to pay residuals, and there's no opportunity to buy physical copies of things, because anything made within the last 10 years, they just don't make DVDs or physical copies of it. So basically, when things are made for streaming, get put on things like HBO Max, things like that, and they get removed, they just don't exist anymore. I know a lot of my friends are big fans of Over the Garden Wall, which just got removed from HBO Max, and they're like, where can we watch it? And it just doesn't exist anymore.
Over the Garden Wall?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's like a 10-episode cartoon series where each episode is about 10 minutes long. It's kind of absurdist a little, but it has a really wild cast. Like Elijah Wood voices the main character, Melanie Linsky voices someone. It's a lot of fun. It's an easy watch. It's like 10 episodes that are all 10 minutes long, so it's basically like watching a kind of a long movie. It's great. Cool. Check it out. Or don't check it out ever again.
You know what I did do last week that I just remembered I did because I had blocked it out of my memory because it was so traumatizing? Remember when Ann Wood was on our show last week and she was doing that stand-up comedy fundraiser for the Homeless Prevention Council, and I said, I'll go do that.
Did you go do it?
Yeah.
How'd it go?
Well,
That's great. It went well.
No, that's not what I meant. I didn't I didn't have time to write 5 minutes of stand-up comedy, so I went to watch. I didn't pay the $5. I was like, I'm not doing this. I just went with Mark to watch. And a bunch of the people that promised her they would go didn't go, and she saw me and she's like, up next, Bob Keary. And I was like, Mark, I don't have anything. I'm not prepared for this. And Mark was like, oh, just tell that story about when you got kicked out of that sex party.
How'd it go?
It was utterly stupid.
He forgot his own punchline.
Oh my God.
Cute but dumb. Dumb as a bag of hammers was the general review of my 5 minute, my debut as a stand-up comedian. No, it was, 5 minutes is a long time. Like I was up there like telling jokes and I figured I had about 30 seconds left. I was like, Ann, how am I doing? She goes, 3 minutes to go.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh my God. But it was fun. Yeah, and they raised over $500 for the Homeless Prevention Council.
That is amazing.
I think she's going to try and do it again. She said this went really well. Everybody had a good time. The headliner was great. The person who opened was really funny. And of course, you can tell that this person's actually a comedian. And afterwards he came up and was like, great job. And I was like, you're a liar.
You're like, don't be mean. You're being mean.
I know, you're being so mean right now.
Speaking of comedy and a little bit back to the Farmyard Follies, I wish you could have seen it just because it was like puns every 5 seconds. It was just puns on puns on puns.
Terrible puns.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Like terrible in the best way.
Yeah.
But it was funny. Mark was sitting behind me and Mark had a reaction to every single pun.
People were laughing though?
Oh yeah. I mean, but mostly Mark. Mark had the biggest reaction to every pun. It was like, come on! every single one. But it was awesome.
Oh my.
One more thing about the writer's strike. So the writer's strike is over, but the actor's strike is not. But they are back at the negotiating table because I think these studios are like, okay, we did this, let's do this, let's get back to work, which I think is really great. A lot of people were like, oh my God, isn't it such a bummer that Drew Barrymore just like destroyed her career just days before the writer's strike was over? But then a lot of people were like, that's probably why the writer's strike was over. There was never really a moment that solidified and proved the public sentiment of how they felt about the strike. There were little blips here and there in support of both sides, either the studios or the writers. And I think with what happened to Drew Barrymore, the studios were like, oh fuck. Like people are on their side. Public sentiment is against us. We need to wrap this up.
Yeah. She didn't ruin her career. Drew Barrymore's fine.
To be seen.
She's fire starter.
That's true. That's true. Other strike news. So the United Auto Workers are striking in Michigan, and over the week, Joe Biden became the first sitting president to visit and support the strikers. He spoke and told members that they deserved a significant raise, which I think is a really awesome sentiment, and I'm glad he said that in those specific words. He said that he marched with he has marched in a lot of UAW picket lines as a senator since 1973, and he's happy to be doing it as the first president. They are asking for a 30% increase in wages over the next 5 years. The UAW did endorse Biden in 2020, but they did say that they are holding out to make a endorsement for the next presidential cycle. Sean Fain, who is the union's president, he did say this. He said, CEOs try to justify a system where they take all the profit and workers are left to fight for the scraps and live paycheck to paycheck. That's got to end. These CEOs sitting in their office, they make the decisions, but we make the product. We do the heavy lifting. We do the real work. The economy is of our making.
It's true.
It is very true.
There needs to be a maximum wage on these CEOs. These people who have like $30 million payouts when they like get fired.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
I think that's really great. I think that's viewed as a very progressive idea because we live in an economy based on free market capitalism. But I don't think they're necessarily like minimum wage is a specific amount. I think the maximum wage should be flexible and in as a ratio to your lowest or your average worker. You know what I mean? You can make $1 billion if every single other person working for you is making $2 million. You know what I mean?
Or like a livable wage.
Yeah, well, yeah. What I'm saying is like there's still an opportunity to make as much money as you want with the ideas of free market capitalism, but you can't be the only one making the money.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever. We can rant about capitalism for like hours.
Right. Trump also visited the UAW workers, I didn't really get to dive in deep, but it seemed like it
He threw
was
paper towels at them.
right. It seemed like it was fake. Like he wasn't actually there. It was all staged, and he was just like, "We're banning electric cars." Like he was it just very much crazy, far right nonsense.
How did that GOP debate go the other night? Did you watch any of it?
I did watch some of it. I saw some clips. It was just like who could regurgitate far right Republican talking points the loudest over each other. The only takeaway that I really enjoyed, and I'm very much of the mindset of not uplifting people who are slightly less bad. I feel like when Trump came to be and like people like George W. Bush started speaking out against him, everyone's like, yeah, I'm like, he sucks too. Like, let's not pretend he's not also the worst. Like, he's not nearly as bad as Trump, but he's also not great. You know what I mean? Don't allow the right to move the needle so far to the right that things that we knew were bad 10, 15 years ago, we start to tolerate because that's their goal. But Nikki Haley did say about one of the candidates, she was like, I feel like I get dumber every time you speak, which I like that.
Who was she talking to?
Vivek Ramaswamy. But yeah, it wasn't great. It got really transphobic. People said they were going to promise to ban gender-affirming care across the country, and which is just, it's one of those things that, like, yes, there's a fear that could happen, but I don't even feel like the people saying they're promising it think that it could actually happen.
To all of our Republican viewers, please put in the comments who your favorite is in the ongoing debate stage. Like, I want to know who people like. Like, who do you guys like out of the people that you have to choose from?
I don't think any of our viewers are, whether they're Republican or not, are necessarily fans of these people.
Right, but I mean, that's the thing, is if you're going to vote in the Republican primary, you have to pick one of them. Or not vote in
I feel
it.
like any registered Republican would throw their laptop or phone against the wall within 5 minutes of watching our show, so I don't know if
that's not true.
we have many Republican viewers. Speaking of Trump, more bad news for him this past week. So a New York judge ordered the dissolution of businesses owned by the former President Donald Trump and his associates in a ruling that happened this past Tuesday that found the ex-president and his company committed fraud. Did you read about this?
No.
Basically, they asserted that Donald Trump and his company drastically overestimated their wealth in order to get better deals on loans and things, which is fraud. And basically, they rescinded Trump's and the Trump Organization's business licenses in New York, so they cannot do business in New York anymore. And that includes the businesses that are housed by Trump Tower. Basically, he can keep the building, he just can't use it to do any sort of business.
Wow.
Kind of like, kind of like if you lost your driver's license. Like, sure, you can keep the car in your driveway, but you can't drive it.
Oh boy.
And yeah,
he's out of business in New York.
Because his business is based in New York, he's out of business. Him, his two sons, and any LLC that they own is no longer allowed to do business in the state of New York. Which his whole empire was built in New York. All of his whole empire was built in New York.
It was a house of cards the whole time. That's what they're finding out.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody that lives in New York knew that already. Like, nobody in New York ever voted for that guy.
Right.
By the way.
The judge ordered a receiver to be appointed that would oversee the companies and sell off assets. Like, it's gotta go. It's all going away.
Ooh, a fire sale.
Yeah.
I love a fire sale. Let's buy Trump Tower. We
Okay.
can't afford a house in Provincetown, but we can buy Trump
Maybe
Tower.
Trump Tower will be affordable. I think that might. Oh, just a couple things that are going on this weekend. Like we said, the book festival is happening this weekend, and one of our favorites, a friend of the show, Susan Tran, is doing an interview this Saturday at 6:30 with Ilyan Wu, the author of Master, Slave, Husband, Wife. It is the riveting true story of an enslaved couple who escaped by posing as a white man and his servant. And they're going to not only talk about the book.
And the woman was the white man, right?
I don't know.
I hope I didn't spoil the book.
Yeah, right. But Susan is going to be interviewing them not only
Tomorrow.
about the book itself, but also how the writer tracked down this bit of hidden African American history.
That is a remarkable story.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
So go visit Sue tomorrow, 6:30. Hi, Susan.
Also, we had Jeremy Hobson on last year to talk about his new podcast, The Middle, and he had a limited run of it last year. But he premiered last night, The Middle, on I think
360
Yeah.
NPR stations around the
How cool
country.
is that?
I know.
There are new episodes every Thursday. If you don't know what The Middle is, it is a basically half call-in show, half podcast, and the idea of it is to elevate the voices of everyday Americans living in the geographic and political middle, because they have so much sway over what happens in our politics, but their voices are very rarely elevated. So, you know, we're like, what's going on in the middle of the country? Why are they doing all this? And it's basically connecting with those people to try and see how they feel about these things. So it's going to be awesome. New episodes every Thursday. You can watch it on one of those, or listen to it on one of those 360 NPR stations, or you can listen to it wherever you watch your podcasts.
Congratulations, Jer.
I think just one more thing. It is the last day for early bird tickets for the Food and Wine Festival. I think there's 2 events that you can still get a discount on for early bird special. I think it is the welcome party and also the grand tasting, which is Saturday of the first weekend in November. It is going to be awesome. The link to that is in our bio, so be sure to check that out. Yeah, I'm excited. I love that
Cool,
event.
me too.
Yeah. Anything else?
No,
Okay.
we should move on.
Yeah. Let's go to
This
Shann and Woody.
come on our virtual gallery stroll with us.
This is Woody Shimko at the Woodman Shimko Gallery at 348 Commercial Street. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Always
You've
good to
been
see
here
you.
a long time, right?
I've been in town for about 33 years. I opened up my first store, which was a all-natural store called There's No Place Like Home, and it was down on the West End in 1990. I opened it, but I've been coming here way before that too.
How long have you been doing the gallery?
The gallery, actually in the 90s, I opened up my first gallery. Then I changed that to a couple other stores. And this gallery I've had for probably 13 years now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's take a little walk.
Sure.
You got a lot of local artists in here.
Yeah, there are a lot of local. Most of the work that I have are probably local artists.
I see some Packards, some Dowds, some
Yeah,
Sousas.
yeah, this is a private collection that we're showing for someone here in town. But we have, I would say maybe 60-70% of the artists that we have are local. But I also had a gallery in Palm Springs, but I had to close it in 2020 because of COVID.
Right.
And that wasn't fun, you know, because I had that for about 6 or 7 years. I better open up another one there, just not sure when. I'm hoping it's going to be this winter because I go back there in about a month. So the end of October is when I go back to Palm Springs. So some of the artwork that I do have, the work in the back wall there, those are all charcoal drawings. And he's a Palm Springs artist.
I was just going to say, how do you select your artists?
Well, most of the time they actually come to me.
Yeah.
They come to the gallery, they find my website, woodmanshimkogallery.com. They'll get in touch with me. I feel that if I can hang it in my home, I'm going to hang it in the gallery. That's kind of how I decide. This artist lives outside of Boston, Adam O'Day. He was actually commissioned by the city of Boston to do the cover for their tourism guidebook years ago. This artist lives also outside of Boston, Carlos Santiago. So there's there's a bit of a range. One thing that I really, well, I don't do like, I'm not only going to do like sailors, I'm not going to do, you know, boats and things like fishermen, because of being in Provincetown. The same way in Palm Springs, I didn't do like palm trees or that type of thing. It's just whatever people are going to be drawn to.
Right. And something that touches you personally.
Exactly. I also then started doing some gifty items here too, and against the wall here. Just because everybody doesn't have money for artwork, but they do have money to buy something if they're on vacation. So I kind of included that here in the gallery. So T.J. Walton we have here. Most people know her work as her whale tales, but these are the house series that she did many, many years ago. That's part of that private collection. The man who does these monuments here, he calls it his monumental series. Jeff Osmond, he lives here in town with his partner. The Dot series in the back, this is another Palm Springs artist, Hank Hudson, and These are limited edition prints on canvas, which is, he goes up to 25 pieces, and they're pretty amazing. When you look through the cameras, the dots get so much smaller and it kind of blends all the colors together and makes the images much easier to read. Some people, from a distance, you can also make them out, but some are pretty obvious. You know, Kennedy, Obama, Amy Winehouse.
Right. Blondie.
Yeah, Blondie. This is another Massachusetts artist. The man who did the mosaics here, and there's an amazing mosaic that he brought in yesterday, Michael Ferrari. So yeah, so it's a mixture of local and California and others. The woman who does the ceramics, Gail Brown, she's been in town just a couple years, I think 53.
Wow.
So she's been here for a while, and she's been doing these amazing ceramics for a long time too. The wire sculptures are pretty incredible. These are all steel wire, so if you press that tail, he doesn't bend any of it with his fingers. He can't because it's all steel, so he's got to use tools for all of them. The horse, the octopus on the wall gets a lot of attention. It's really a nice one. So yeah, so that's pretty much what the gallery's about and why I'm doing it, because I can't paint, I can't draw, but I love artwork. So that's why I show it.
Come down this fall and say hi to Woody before he takes off for California, guys.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. I'm at the Treadwell Gallery at 397 Commercial Street with Sean Treadwell. How are you?
I'm great, how are you?
I'm good. Sean's a friend of the show. You've been on the show probably 4 or 5 times by now,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is your 3rd year of the Treadwell Gallery.
Mm-hmm.
First year in this location.
Yep, brand new location.
But you're going to be here for 5 years.
Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about how you choose your artists, the general vibe of your gallery. Like, what are you going for?
So I choose my artists mainly the people that I've already known and their friends that I like their artwork, and I know I could do really well for them. And then sort of the vibe of the gallery is just what I like and what I can envision on my wall at home.
Like Amanda Lepore.
Like Amanda Lepore.
And Cedric, of course, one of my personal favorites. I'm not just saying that because of the Cedric of me that's over here, which for some reason didn't sell yet.
The only one out of like 50 that didn't sell.
You're such an
People just really want to live with Bob Curie.
So what do you got going on for the fall?
So for the fall right now, it's just sort of a group showing of everybody that I represent. I try to get all of the solo shows out of the way at the beginning of the year. And then that way, the rest of the season, everybody can have space on the wall. And, you know, if there's something that you don't like in a solo show, then it sort of, you miss out on all of the rest of the artists that are showing. So I try to have as many people on the wall as I can.
And before you started doing your own gallery, you were an artist represented in other galleries.
Mainly with Carolyn Kramer at the Joe studio.
And like, at what point during that process were you like, you know, I would rather do this on my own?
It was a combination of things. It's like one of those things where you're with somebody else and you want to do things a certain way, but it's not your space. It's like when you're a kid and your parents are like, when you have a house, you can do what you want in your house. But Carolyn was fantastic. And then the big thing was working as a service, like as a bartender during the pandemic.
Right.
I was just kind of like, this ain't it.
Yeah.
So then an opportunity came up for me to rent a space, and so I did.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thanks for making some time for us. You guys come down and say hi to Sean. Buy some art this fall. It's a beautiful time of year here. You guys, please somebody go into the Treadwell Gallery and buy that goof.
Yeah,
Of me.
It's the only one that doesn't sell.
Can you believe he said that?
I mean,
live
is it
on
true?
camera? I don't know if it's true or not. He was just being mean.
You're like, he could have lied if it is true.
Well, it was. Never mind. Go buy it. Somebody go buy that, please. Please welcome to the show, Adam Golub. Thank you for being here.
Yes, you're welcome.
How's the Generations project going?
It's good. It's good. We installed our exhibit of LGBT history at the Monument last summer, and we've had a write-up in the Boston Globe and the Cape Cod Times, and so we've got a lot of great reviews. It feels awesome to represent LGBT history of Provincetown. we're sort of, our purview is like the last century, which is a little bit ambitious, but yeah.
How long have you been working with the Generations Project?
We started in New York. I've been working with the Generations Project for 8 or 9 years as their media person, and then I started doing creative direction. So I started our workshops. We have storytelling workshops, and we have writing workshops, and then we have live storytelling shows like the one we have tomorrow at the Gifford House.
Nice.
And we record all those stories and we archive them, and we're sort of moving into the direction of figuring out an archiving strategy so that we can make the stories really accessible to the public in a kind of more consistent way. You know, it seems like we were trying to work against a deficit of intergenerational relationships in the LGBT community, that like a lot of bars and places where LGBT people congregate are highly segregated based on age or gender or class or all these things. And so we thought storytelling would be sort of a specific corrective way that we could bring people together from different walks of life within our community. And then also, for posterity's sake, sort of keep the stories in some sort of organized way to create an anthology so that we could start presenting our story. I mean, you know, having done a lot of research actually with Nan from the library, who's going to be coming up at some point on the show, you know, you look into the archives and you're scanning the Advocate for traces of LGBT history before the 1980s, and it's actually really hard to come by. So there's a lot of ways in which we want to make sure that into the future that we have some sort of control over the historical narrative of our community.
And the first Provincetown show was, what year was that?
2017.
2017, and we did Dan Mullen that day, right?
I don't know if Dan was that year or 2018. Dan might have been the second year, our second show. Yeah,
Who
we had
has
Dan Mullen.
since passed away, but like this is, you know, once, you know, I co-hosted those first two with Katie Ledoux, and we're interviewing these people, and it didn't occur to me sitting there at the time that like very soon he would be gone. And so, you know, these stories are valuable, and we got to get people to talk. So who are you talking with tomorrow?
Tomorrow we've got Zoe Lewis. Is going to tell the story of having lived next to Spiritus Pizza for 25 years. And sort of, you know, her time. There's a couple of spots in town that I want her to talk about that the theme of the show is called Bygone and Beloved Places in Provincetown. And we're doing a series that's about site-specific stories
that's fun.
over the next couple years to try to create a sense of place and the LGBT story sort of grounded. So we'll have Stephen White and Jimmy Lee Curtis telling their stories of managing the Birch House.
That's where I met Peter Sullivan.
At the Birch House?
At the Birch House.
Oh, wow, yeah.
What was the Birch House?
It was a guest house on Bradford Street, and Jimmy Lee Curtis was like the house mom. She ran the Birch House, and like after the clubs would close, we would go and play cards at the big round dining room table at like 2 or 3 in the morning. Jimmy Lee would make soup, and you know, people would just hang out.
Yeah.
And one night I went there to play cards, and there was one person at the table that I didn't know. And it was Peter, and I was like, oh, I'm going to sit next to that cute guy that I don't know. And then he ignored me for 2 hours. and then he ignored me for 16 years. No, I love that you guys are doing the Birch House.
Well, actually, the Birch House is one of the first 3 openly gay guest houses in the 60s. It was the Chicago House, the Birch House, and the Ranch. So, yeah, Stephen White was the manager of it from 85 to 95, and he's going to tell his story from the 80s. And then we have Diane Corbo from Ravenwood in telling about the women innkeepers and the founding of Women's Week in the early 80s.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
I love this site-specific version of it.
Yeah, we're eventually sort of angling towards some sort of LGBT treasure hunt, like LGBT history treasure hunt of town, where either it'll be some sort of augmented reality, or you could be walking around town or you'll have a map where you'll be able to go. Like Beta Cook, who was one of our storytellers, has also passed in the last couple of years. She lived up at the very end of Pleasant Street. So we might make a mark on the map for people to go up to the house where she lived, and you could hear her story of having been born in Provincetown in the 20s and having, you know, gutted fish on the pier in the post-war era, stuff like that.
Where's the show happening tomorrow?
At the Gifford House in the Wild, which is the sort of cabaret room in the back, but the entrance will be through the porch bar.
Okay, what time?
From 6 to 8.
6 to 8 tomorrow.
Yeah.
You get to go. Oh, I have to work.
It's so important as the queer community, we really have to facilitate storytelling and the passing down of history, because we're one of the only communities where it's like you don't learn this from your parents, because most often your parents aren't queer people. So it's like our communities are connected through locations mostly, because especially in the past you could only be queer outwardly in these tiny little enclaves of safe spaces. So I think it's really smart to connect our history with locations.
Yeah, and I think our culture in the digital age becomes increasingly segregated based on what your affinity is. So what you like is what you just go to, and you don't get to have exposure to things that are foreign to you. And so I think that we have an opportunity here in P-Town to continue a tradition of intergenerational and across all kinds of delineations, to continue relationship founding in spaces that are explicitly queer, you know?
Yeah. And also so many people come to Provincetown because it is a queer haven, but then don't really understand the history of it all and how it became. And
I'd wager to say most people come to Provincetown and do not have a deep appreciation of how this place became the way that it is today, and how there's a century of history behind why people come here.
People's memories are very short. People forget things almost instantaneously. For instance, when Mike Ackerman asked me to have you on this show, he goes, "Have you heard of the Generations Project? Would you mind having Adam on your show?" And I said, "Dummy, I hosted the first 2 Generations Project shows in Provincetown."
Those were good shows.
Thank you. We had a lot of fun. So everybody go listen to this show tomorrow. I really wish I could go to this.
Yeah.
Is there going to be a recording of it?
We are recording all the stories, and they may find their way into the Monument Museum. They're not available immediately online. We want to make sure that we're thoughtful about how they're available, and we're a little bit resistant to having them just available online.
Sure.
We want people to have to come to the place to experience them.
Yeah.
But at some point, it'll be easier to have access to them. But yes, they're being recorded.
Awesome.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for all the amazing work you're doing.
Yeah,
It's
of
really
course.
amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Let's check out Carmen and Sam with Babes and Boys telling you everything we've got going on this week.
Hey everyone!
Happy
Full
harvest
super
moon,
big and
It's-
full, and she's here today.
and just in time because it's Leathermates weekend. Also, as a reminder, get your Washashore ticks. They're coming up on the 7th and the 8th. It's a great lineup and a stellar set of parties, including the closing party. And then also check out and reserve your ticks for Women's Week, coming up from October 9th to the 15th, featuring great performances and events like Kristen and Katie's Star-Crossed dating game. And they're looking for some contestants, so feel free to check out babesandboys.com for more information on that.
And a survey that they're looking to have folks fill out.
Yeah, astrological dating game. Come on.
Good stuff. Also, hit up all your favorite restaurants before they close soon, like Terra Luna in Truro, Sal's, Blackfish, Pepe's, The Red Inn. Don't worry about Front Street, though. They're going to be open, we hear, until New Year's Eve.
Yes. Also, starting today on the Fall Harvest Supermoon,
We have the closing performance of Shards Creek at 9 p.m. at the Post Office Cafe. If you haven't seen it, please come check it out. Really great cast, including Sam.
come get your tickets. It's the 101st performance. Also starting today, the Provincetown Book Festival is in town from Friday to Sunday. All the events are at the library and they are free to the public. Please see the website for more details. This also includes an interview by Susan Tran, formerly of NBC 10 News. She'll be interviewing the author of Master Slave Husband Wife, Elon Wu.
Sounds like fun. This is going to be gallery night, obviously, throughout town, including free entry to Pam later in the evening.
It's also the opening night of A Haunting in Venice and Stop Making Sense at Water's Edge Cinema. Come check out Water's Edge Cinema, also on Thursdays. It's Townie Thursdays, $5 tickets.
And Saturday morning, we have Talk and Walk with the Doc. It's join cardiologist Elisa Thompson, a park ranger, and guest speakers as they team up with a short talk and trail walk and explore the importance of sleep for your health. So you just meet at the Beach Forest Trail parking lot. That is a free event, I believe.
Also on Saturday, there is Mushroom Fest at the Gifford House from 1 to 3 p.m. It is a potluck celebrating community and also teaching everyone to learn how to grow mushrooms legally and affordably.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
It's Salvatore Del Deo's exhibit called 75 Years in Provincetown. This is curated by Chris McCarthy of PAM. That will open Saturday morning at 11. So definitely check that out. Also a reminder, nab your tickets for Pam's Gala after party. That's 8:30 to 10:30 at Mata Field on Saturday night this weekend. It's basically towny prom. So get decked out and let's support the arts.
Pam's got a lot of good stuff going on there. Please support. Also on Saturday, the Generation Project, Beloved and Bygone, Stories of P-Town Places Past at the Gifford House is at 6:30, including local performers such as Zoe Lewis and hosted by Adam Golub.
Awesome. Just a reminder, this Sunday is Sege Brunch at Crown and Anchor. Kelly's brunches are now just Saturdays and Sundays, so don't miss out. They start at 10:30 a.m. both days, walk-in only.
Also on Sunday, it's the 9th annual Vinegrass Music Fest at Churro Vineyards. Doors open at 11, and the music starts from 12 and lasts all the way till 6. It's got a full lineup of great bands, and also the Crush Pad food truck will feature food and libations at Churro Vineyards, so come check that out.
That's actually one of my favorite lobster rolls in town.
In town, it's a churro. Favorite lobster roll in Provincetown is a churro.
I mean, it's like the Brooklyn of it's fun. Monday night, we have Manic Monday, and that's at Post Office Cabaret, I think starting at 9.
Featuring Darlene Van Alstine and Billy Huff.
Love that. And Trivia Night continues at PBC at 7 p.m. on Monday.
And then on Wednesday, the How Auction and Fundraisers at Bubala's. They're celebrating 30 years of helping our women. Come check them out. I will be DJing, Kristen Becker and Mackenzie will be hosting. It'll be a great time.
And the online auction actually starts today.
Get your bids in. And then on Thursday, Let Me Be Your Star with live piano and karaoke with Joao Santos. It will be at the Crown and Anchor.
Really fun events. So much going on. There's more details on our website, and we hope to see you throughout the week.
But a reminder, get your tickets. Washashore, Women's Week, and happy Leather Mates Weekend, everyone.
Oh, never mind.
Thank you, Sam and Carmen. Please welcome Nan to the Wake Up stage. Thank you so much for coming in this morning.
Wake up indeed.
Yeah, right.
I know you have a lot of work to do this weekend.
But a lot of fun. The Provincetown Book Festival is this weekend, starting tonight at 6. Competing, unfortunately, with the Generations Project, but we give an award called the Rose Dorothy Award. The Rose Dorothy, of course, is the giant ship in the library. We give the Rose Dorothy Award to a writer who was heavily influenced by the Outer Cape and made an outstanding contribution to writing. And this year it's Frank Gaspar, who wrote a novel called Leaving Pico, and a couple of other novels, and a lot of poetry. And he has a new book out called The Poems of Renata Ferrara, which would appear to be translations of Portuguese poems. He's Portuguese-American, of course. But there is no Renata Ferrara. It's poems that came to him apparently, and he started writing them down. And apparently she has a voice that spoke through Frank. And so
interesting.
Some of it's prose, some of it's poetry. It's a completely genre-bending book. I'm really excited about that. But anyway, we're going to give him the Rose Dorothy Award on He'll Read tonight at 6, and that'll kick off the festival.
How many years has the festival been going on?
Since 2016. This is our 7th because we skipped one for COVID. We got I started it, and with Stephen Borkowski, who's the chair of the Board of Trustees of the library, and he and I went to Nantucket for the Nantucket Book Festival, and we were like, this is so cool. We heard some great writers, and it was just fabulous. And second, we could do this, and so we did. And I mean, it's not nearly as big as the Nantucket Festival. They have like 4 locations and lots of stuff going on that we don't. But it's still a real book festival for 2.5 days. So.
And was that the same year you started working at the library, 2016?
That's the year I went full time. Yeah, I was I worked at the desk checking books out and stuff. But then I got a full-time job as the lead librarian. My boss at the time, somebody asked him what's the difference between the head librarian and the lead librarian, and he said L.
That's good. I like that. I do have to say, we do have one of the coolest libraries in the world.
Don't we just?
It's got the ship, the Marc Jacobs reading room. It's like, what other library on the planet has a Marc Jacobs reading room?
And it's just, and it has all of this art, this Provincetown art from the Art Commission. We have nothing to do with it. They just come in and hang this gorgeous stuff, and we're like, oh, good. And and it's a beautiful building in and of itself, being a church built in 1860. Thank you.
Wow.
So yeah, it's just an amazing place. And we're kind of, we actually kind of walk a line between being a regular library and being a tourist attraction.
Right.
In the summer, we're sort of more a tourist attraction. In the winter, we are a genuine library that is a place where townies want to go and hang out.
Right.
But let me say more about the festival, because it's really exciting. Saturday night, we have an author named Il-Yan Wu, who's from Boston, and she's being interviewed by an Emmy-winning TV reporter, Susan Tran, who's also from Boston. And she wrote a book called Master, Slave, Husband, Wife, which is this fabulous escape story about how this enslaved couple, who were husband and wife, escaped from slavery by the woman posed as a man because she was the light one.
See, I was right.
She posed as white.
And a man.
Well, she had to be a man because a woman wouldn't have traveled by herself with a slave. But a white man could travel with a slave. And there's all kinds of really cool little stuff, like enslaved people weren't allowed to learn how to read and write.
Right.
So she would have needed to sign her name and stuff. I mean, they got on a steamship and went up to Boston, and, just bold as brass. But so she had to pretend to be disabled so that she wouldn't have to write. And they developed this whole intricate thing, and there were a lot of narrow escapes and so forth. It's a great story, and they did make it.
That is unbelievable.
It is, and Il-Yan Wu found this story and figured out how to tell it in a fabulous way in her book. So she will be sort of telling the story and reading from it and being interviewed by Susan Tran on Saturday night. That's at 6:30. Everything is free. That's the other thing about our book festival. Everything is free. We aren't, no fundraisers, no anything. We just offer it to the world. And another really cool thing, at 1:30, I think, you better double check this on our website, provincetownbookfestival.org, but on Sunday, I think at 1:30, the biographer of Shirley Chisholm is going to be with us, and I realize that people who are not as old as me don't necessarily remember Shirley Chisholm or know who she was. She was the first black woman to run for president. Wow. And she ran in 1972. Big deal. A BFD, and she was really radical. I mean, so radical that you almost wouldn't expect that she would think the presidency was a thing to aspire to. But for a black woman, it is. Anyway, the biographer is going to be there, but so is a white guy who was one of her speechwriters.
Oh, wow.
Really?
So he'll be telling stories about her that will supplement certainly what her biographer knows about her, only from paper and video and stuff. So that's what we.
Where's the Shirley Chisholm event happening?
This is all at the library.
Awesome.
In fact, it's in front of the ship.
Excellent.
Nice.
Because why not?
How can people support the library and the book festival?
Well, just come. I mean,
that.
just take advantage of it. We have, I think, 19 different authors and presenters coming. Wow. Prose writers, poetry writers, memoir writers, fiction writers, queer, people of color, experimental, very traditional. It's it's an incredible mix of great writing. So check it out.
That's really
By
cool.
all means.
That's awesome.
Thank
Sounds
you.
like a lot of fun.
Thank you for doing it.
Yeah. And thanks for coming in this morning.
Oh, I'm so
We know
happy.
you've got
I know
a
it's
busy weekend
early.
ahead of you.
And here I am in my Zoom clothes. I was like, I hope my sweatpants don't show.
They look great. They look great.
It's sweatpants season. It's fine.
We did want to make a little announcement. The results of the study that was introduced after the short-term rental restrictions were introduced on the town warrant last week were in this past week. The person who ran the study did speak with the select board this past Monday, and the results are now public. You can get, I know it's linked through an article in The Independent. Give it a good read. It is very long, and we're going to talk about it next week, just because we have
70 pages.
70 pages. We got some digging to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for watching this morning. Thank you to our sponsors, the Crown and Anchor, Provincetown Brewing Company, the Boat Slip, Shipwreck at the Brass Key, and also the Provincetown Business Guild.
And thank you guys for watching. Thanks for waking up in Provincetown.
Wherever you are.
And we'll see you next Friday.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Wake up. Wake up, wake up. In Provincetown.